Diktatörlerin sonu budur. Diktatörlerin sonu budur. Allahu Ekber.
West Asia is on the boil again, only this time in a different country, Syria. It is witnessing intense fighting. An old conflict has flared up again. First, look at the images. This video is from Sunday. A bomb fell on a busy street in the city of Aleppo. Aleppo is one of the biggest cities of Syria. Large parts of Aleppo have now fallen to the rebels, including the heart of the city. And the Aleppo airport had to be shut. Reports say rebels have taken control of it. It was a lightning offensive. It began on Wednesday, and within a few days, the Assad regime lost control of Aleppo. The images are quite dramatic. There was a statue of Assad's brother, Basil, in the city. It was torn down by a group of armed men.
Diktatörlerin sonu budur. Diktatörlerin sonu budur. Allahu Ekber. Sonu budur. Allahu Ekber. Allahu Ekber. Allahu Ekber. Diktatörlerin sonu budur. Diktatörlerin sonu budur. Tüm diktatörler.
Reminds you of the fall of Saddam Hussein in Iraq. That was in 2003, when Iraqis brought down Saddam's statue in a similar fashion. But barring videos like these, of course, the Syria story is very different from Iraq. The Syrian civil war began in 2011 during the Arab Spring. Protesters wanted to overthrow President Bashar al-Assad. The protests turned into armed conflicts. Foreign players joined in. Terrorist groups exploited the chaos, but Assad held on with support from friends like Iran and Russia. But now Iran and Russia are involved in their own conflicts. Iran is pitted against Israel. Russia is fighting in Ukraine. So Bashar al-Assad was left vulnerable in Syria. And rebels exploited this opportunity to strike. As I said, it began last week. The rebels made gains immediately. They captured large chunks of land, including parts of provinces like Hama. Their next target is said to be Damascus, the capital of Syria. Will Assad be able to fend it off? At this point, his army appears outmatched.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر هاي الدبابات هاي الباصات الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر هاي الدبابات هاي دبابة ثانية غاد الله أكبر الله أكبر هاي دبابة.
So what exactly is happening here? How are the odds stacked? And who is leading this new offensive in Syria? You see, after years of conflict, Syria is a country with multiple power centers. The Assad regime controls only about 60% of it, only about 60% of the territory. In the east, it's the Kurds who hold sway. In the northwest, in cities like Idlib, there are other rebel groups. Despite using his full force, Assad has not been able to regain total control of his country. So again, who is behind this latest offensive? It's a group called HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. It's an offshoot of the Al-Qaeda and is being supported by smaller rebel groups. Now, the HTS is not a new group. They've been around since 2016. Until recently, they were the de facto rulers of Idlib, the city in the northwest. The group has around 30,000 fighters, which is a considerable number, big enough to mount a new offensive. And they're up against the Syrian army, which has the backing of Iran and Russia. The Syrian army is supported by Iran and Russia. So President Assad has powerful friends, and they're stepping up in his hour of crisis. Iran is sending militias to support Assad's army. Yesterday, they sent some 300 fighters via Iraq. Meanwhile, Russia is giving aerial support. Russian planes carried out airstrikes to neutralize the rebels. At least 25 people were killed in these Russian airstrikes. The Syrian Air Force was part of this operation. Together, they tried to push back the rebels. And as always, civilians are bearing the brunt of war.
صار قصف جراء استهداف مدينة إدلب 1/12/2024.
في حدث أحد؟
ليكا المرة ليكا وين؟ شهيد واحد 12/2024 استهداف الأحياء داخل مدينة إدلب.
The Iranian foreign minister has visited Damascus. He said the trip was supposed to send a message to demonstrate Tehran's firm support to Assad. Iran says its military advisors are in Damascus. They will remain there until the threat to the Assad regime is neutralized. And this is not a new deployment. Iran has been supporting Assad since the civil war began in 2011. As part of this support, they've stationed a team of advisors in Damascus. Moscow, too, has reiterated its support to the Assad regime.
Of course, we continue to support Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. We continue our contacts on the relevant levels. We analyze the situation in Syria. Russia's position will be formed in regard of what is needed for the stabilization of situation.
These words would be welcome in Damascus because President Assad faces a significant challenge and his political rivals are also ramping up attacks.
I assure you that we will continue this time, and we won't stop fighting until one of two things happens. Either this regime commits to the entire political process to implement the UN Security Council Resolution 2254 until we reach a political transition.
Syria says it has neutralized 1,000 rebels in the last week. But the fact is that this latest offensive has exposed Assad's weaknesses. His military appears weak and underprepared. He has lost control of a strategically significant city. He must contain, if not completely stop the rebels if he has to survive. And for that, he will need help from his allies, Moscow and Tehran.